if there's anyone in the world that doesn't know you by now already, which I find impossible personally, I will introduce you as briefly as possible, which is also I think probably unlikely. You are born to an American father, an Italian mother, born in Rome.
Born in Rome,
Grew up in Rome, moved
and in New York.
And in New York. Afterwards, went to Harvard.
Yes.
Studied
Economics.
Economics, became a.
I started my own company. So after college, I applied for 13 jobs in investment banking. I got 13 rejections. I was very obviously depressed and everything. I said, my God, I speak 4 languages. I'm relatively smart. Nobody wants to hire me. So with my next door neighbor, I started my own company manufacturing medical instruments. After 2 years, I sold and made a bit of money. Then in '83, I practically did nothing, just fooled around, import, export, mainly trying to chase girls, not very successfully.
Okay.
And then in '84, Merrill Lynch, this American investment firm, offered me a job in Rome, and I was there for nearly 10 years, 9 years and 9 months.
Right, and then you've been in Rome
38 years.
Ever since. At a certain point then as well, when you became a titan of industry, you switched to dividing your time also with charity work. First,
I do a lot, yes.
Operation Smile, Italy, and then now you're working with the Komen Foundation.
Yes.
For doing an event, a wonderful event, Polo for the Cure.
Yes.
So, and that's the very, very short version.
That's the short version.
That's the short version.
That's the short. Now, if you want the 60-second version, the 600-second version,
right,
or the 6,000-second version, they're, I think, equally interesting. The long and short of it is that my wife and I started doing charity polo matches.
Well, we'll get to that.
Oh.
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
We're going to get to that. But I want to start by asking you, because you've grown up in these two worlds, and because you've moved back and forth, and moved back and forth quite easily,
yes,
between languages, between cultures, between physical places, what does home mean to you?
What does home? Ginger, I find myself very much of a salamander, which is generally very normal with people who have parents of 2 different nationalities, different cultures. And I was very privileged in having been able to be brought up and grown with both sets of values, American values and Italian values. Living in the United States and living in Italy, they're very, very different. And I was able to get literally the best of both cultures. And I am very, very thankful for that to my parents.
Right.
So I feel a citizen of the world. I feel like a salamander.
Right.
You can put me anywhere and I'll fit at ease.
Right. Yeah. So home becomes this different concept, which I think for people think of Italy especially as this very grounded place where everything is about tradition. Everything is really tied to those
People
sorts
don't leave
of
their
things.
Town. They don't leave their neighborhood.
Right.
I have friends of mine who have not left the Grande Raccordo, the ring road of Rome.
Right.
They're in Rome, and they're the kings of Rome, but they don't go to Florence, they don't go to Milan, they don't go abroad. They don't even have passports. So people think that Americans, a very small percentage of Americans, have passports. A lot of Italians, especially with certain socioeconomic background, opt to live in their own walls, like the Aurelian walls.
Right.
That's why the Aurelian walls were built.
Right. For tourism. Keeping tourism out. It didn't work.
Barbarians.
Right. Well, I mean, it's true. And also, I think I've grown up with people in New York who never leave, and who don't leave there. And I think on the one hand, they also think it's the center of the world. And so it's interesting, too, that you grew up in these two places that are, in many ways, think of themselves as the center of the world.
Yeah. Historically, if you think about it, it was the Romans who coined the phrase Roma caput mundi, the head of the world. And New York, songs were made, Frank Sinatra, Lisa Minnelli, glorifying New York. That's what these two capitals are. New York is not a capital in the exact sense of the word Washington is, but New York, for many intents and many purposes, really is the capital of art, finance, industry. No, it's becoming now a capital of technology, and they're very, very successful. And people do not leave those capitals.
Right. Right. But you do, and you float between them.
I go back and forth. I was just telling Ricardo before that in 2019, I went to the last year before COVID, I went to the States 18 times. 18 times. During COVID in 2020, I went 6 times, and in 2021, last year, I only went 5 times. I was supposed to go back to the States this Sunday, and I haven't been to the States in 5 months, which is my record. Record.
Right. So home for you is Terminal 3,
Terminal 3,
Fiumicino
absolutely.
Airport.
Fiumicino and
Sure.
Terminal
Sure.
7,
At JFK.
JFK, or Terminal 8, depending what airline I fly.
Sure.
And back, in fact, I know these terminals literally like the palm of my hand.
Yeah. Okay. So if we need to find you, we can look. We can always look for you there.
Yes.
If we're
I know
missing.
all the shortcuts, how to get to the airport,
Right.
around the airports.
Which is a very New York thing as well, because my family we had arguments. You know, my grandfather, my father, my brother, and I could have an hour-long argument about the best way to get from Brooklyn to the airport was. You know,
I take the train to the plane.
people take the train to the plane. Well, now you take the train to the plane.
The E or the A?
Well, now you can do the train to the plane. Before, it wasn't always, you know. But anyway, I mean, you know, that's.
If you were rich, it was the helicopter.
Oh, sure. Well, we were not quite in the helicopter bracket.
only when my company's paid. Otherwise, I wouldn't go.
Right. Otherwise, that's it. So I also want to then talk about the way in which you became a passionate polo player, and how how that became such a central part of your life. And what's so interesting about it to me is that polo is the quintessential American sport in a way, because it's so, it's so synonymous with Americana, with, thanks to Ralph Lauren and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's become such a symbol of something beyond Americana, not just American, but that real aesthetic of something, something that's quite identifiable. And yet you've got a polo field
Yes.
in the middle of Rome, really.
Well,
Not in the middle.
The last stop on the Rome subway.
Well, close enough. It's a bit, right. So how did it happen for you? How did polo become, how did it take that place?
Well,
and how'd you bring it here?
It's actually a cute story. So my father used to play polo. He played polo at Harvard. So when I went to Harvard freshman year, the upperclassmen saw my name and said, "Oh, Marco, you must play polo." I said, "Guys, I don't even ride horses, let alone polo. I have no interest in picking up the sport." "Oh, but Marco, it's a lot of fun." And I never did it. And that's one of my big regrets in life. Fast forward to 1995, I was turning 37, and a friend of mine gave me for my birthday a whip.
Wow. Now that could be a lot of things.
Exactly. So what happened was, I said to my friend Manuela, Manuela, I thought we were very good platonic friends. I'm not
What
into
year was
kinky.
this?
1995.
Okay, so I mean, it was
I just
right,
got
sure.
separated. And she said, "But Marco, this is no ordinary horse whip. This is not it's a polo horse." I said, "Manuela, I don't even ride horses, let alone play polo. Why are you giving this to me?" Because, "Marco, I think you should open up a new chapter in your life. My boyfriend, her boyfriend, is starting a new polo clinic next week. I think it's high time to just start taking polo lessons." And I ended up taking polo lessons. Because I'm a horsewhip, I started taking polo lessons, and then I bought one horse, then 2 horses, then 3, then 4. They're called ponies in polo. And then I got my brother involved, then I got my son involved, and then it just became such a big thing that it literally overtook my life in completely unexpected ways, for the good. We ended up buying this farm and converting it to a polo farm in Pantano Borghese, and all my children play now. That's probably the best joy I have right now. It's wonderful, playing with all the family. But going back to how polo started, I started playing and then became relatively successful at it. You don't make any money. It's the guaranteed way to lose money. There's a very famous aphorism by an American social commentator, and he said there are three ways to lose money. The most enjoyable way is with women. The most adrenalinic way is gambling, but the surest way is with horses, because there's no way you can make money.
Right.
So, and I'm case in point. But we try to lose as little as possible. That's a side story. So we were playing polo, and then about 10 years ago, I started saying, well, what can we do to promote the game of polo? Because it is a quintessentially American game, like you properly pointed out. It's not well known in Italy. We have less than 150 people play. My idea is to promote the game, not because Ralph Lauren promotes the brand of polo, which is known all over the world, but because polo really is a spectacular sport. It is not a cheap sport, but it is not necessarily an expensive sport. And this is what I try to share with all the people that I talk to, whether it's be in articles, conversations, seminars. It is by far the best way to be in contact with nature. Why? Because you're actually riding an animal. You're playing an environment which is complete nature, and you have no outside mechanical support. For example, in golf, most golfers use golf carts. So many other sports where people say it's contact with nature really isn't necessarily true. Polo, you have to play literally you, the pony, your teammates, and you play against another team. That's why it's called the King of Sports. Do you know why it's called the King of Sports?
I assumed that that's why it was called the King of Sports. No, I don't know why it's called.
Well, let me tell you why it's
I'm
called.
from New York.
It's actually a great, great story. It's called the King of Sports
Don't talk
because,
to the camera.
well, I'll tell you.
Okay.
I will tell you because the viewer wants to hear this. It's called the
Okay.
King of Sports because it's actually three sports in one. It's riding, because you have to be a good equestrian. Two, it is soccer or football. It's a team sport because you have to score a goal with your teammates against the opposing team. And three, it's golf because you have a very long mallet, a very small ball,
Right.
and you have to hit the ball between the goalposts.
It's a bit like jousting almost then. It's a modern day, isn't it? A bit of a.
I like to call it a mixture of golf, soccer, and equestrian capabilities. But it's also called a sport of kings because it costs as much as three sports. That's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem. But it's a fabulous game. I encourage anybody who has not seen a match of polo in his or her life to see it because it is absolutely spectacular. You see 8 horses galloping up and down the field, doing tremendously athletic deeds with the riders on top, hitting the ball at full speed. It is absolutely spectacular to see. It's priceless.
One of the things that I think has struck me, and now I want to just ask you about how polo went from being this pastime or this, love, a passion, to being also a cause and something that you've then turned into an expression of charity, which is the project that you're currently, is currently taken up, I would imagine, quite a large part of your time. And which is Polo for the Cure, in collaboration with the Komen Foundation, to support and to raise awareness about breast cancer.
Correct.
So it's actually it's wonderful to think of this very regal sport now being sort of used as a platform for spreading awareness about something which you have said previously to me, and I think is so important to think about, and I've thought about it since, about how breast cancer remains hidden in Italy.
Especially in Italy.
and in a lot of places in particular, and so that, you know, in a way it's not quite, it doesn't have quite this, you know, women, because it affects women's majority, the large majority.
Great majority.
You know, there's something of maybe not a stigma, but there's a certain amount of
Well,
shame attached to it.
First of all, one of the peculiarities of breast cancer is breast cancer can hit women, I should say hit, can affect women regardless of their age, of their race, of their religion, of their socioeconomic condition. Anybody can get it. It is a completely random thing. And it is today, with the technology that there exists, eminently treatable and very often curable. In the old days, because of the fact that women, when they had it, were considered a pariah, they wouldn't talk about it, there was a shame attached to it, a stigma. It's wrong. The idea that I have and my wife have is to let everybody, man, women, child, be aware that this can affect them. Because after all, every single inhabitant on this planet, no exception, was born from a woman. Okay? Fact.
Facts.
People don't think about that. If that woman had breast cancer, their offspring may not have been born. So it's very, very important that everybody be aware of that. And our objective is to humbly trying to replicate what very successfully Komen has been doing with Race for the Cure, creating this event called Polo for the Cure, because it's to bring awareness. Instead of a race, which everybody does, 100,000 people do it, that starts next week, we're going to have our event from June 28th to July 2nd, a more social event, a more alternative event, but nevertheless an event where people become very aware that this is a very important thing, and it's an avoidable and curable disease. It's completely treatable. And charity work, for me, I think it's part of my DNA right now. I'm a big believer in he or she who received a lot has a obligation to give back.
So it is taking place from June 28th to July 2nd.
Yes.
At your club in Rome.
Actually, yeah, the event, what's going to make this event very special is the city of Rome is going to let us have a parade from June 28th, from Piazza del Popolo. For those of your viewers or readers who don't know about it, Piazza del Popolo is a very famous square in the center of Rome, a huge square, and all the women riders are going to go on horseback from Piazza del Popolo to Via Condotti, which is probably the most famous shopping street in Italy, probably the world, on horseback, followed by the Lancieri di Montebello, which is the Italian cavalry. And then there's going to be a cocktail party at this very beautiful store called Fendi, which is going to entertain the polo players and some VIP sponsors. But the true tournament starts on June 29th and finishes July 2nd. July 2nd is the big day. July 2nd, the day is going to start. The gates open at 3 p.m. We're expecting over 1,000 people. The first match will take place at 4 p.m. After 4 p.m., at 5:15 more or less, at the end of the first match, the Lancieri di Montebello, which is the Italian cavalry, the 8th Regiment, will be singing the fanfara, and they'll be singing the Italian national anthem. Then the U.S. Marines will be doing the color guard and singing the U.S. anthem. And then we'll have the second match at 6 p.m. And then we're going to have, after the 6 p.m. match, it'll finish around 7:15. We're going to have a half-hour acrobatic air show with all these airplanes spewing blue, white, and red smoke in honor of Independence Day. And they're going to be doing a special show spewing pink smoke in honor of Komen. And what Independence Day would it be without the traditional barbecue and fireworks at sunset. And that's how the night finishes at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. And many ambassadors were invited. They've already confirmed they're coming, including the American ambassadors and the ambassadors from all the foreign countries. One thing I didn't mention is that players from all over the world will be coming. We have players from North America, South America, Italy, Europe, Middle East, and Southeast Asia, and South Africa.
So, you see, Marco, when you're at home everywhere in the world, then you can just bring the world to you.
I think all of us, willingly or nillingly, are citizens of the world. Some people accept it and embrace it wholeheartedly. Some people have difficulty accepting it. I have embraced this concept since I was born because I'm privileged.
Well, you had no choice. You had no choice. You're a chameleon.
I'm a
You're a chameleon,
I'm a salamander,
and
chameleon.
a salamander, a horse rider. You're all of
Broken
it.
broken every
You're
bone
all
in
of
my
it.
body.
Well, and then you put them back together.
Absolutely.
And that's the important thing. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you.
great, great, great. Thank you for promoting this wonderful event. And it is, everything will be available online on the COBID website. All the American associations in Rome will be promoting it, as the American universities are.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm going to sneak in.
You're welcome to.
I need to sneak in, you know. I mean, I need to feel a little rebellious.
Maybe we'll even get you on a horse.
Do you think so?
Would you like to?
Do you know what? I was on a horse once in my life.
Well,
it was an
it'll be 2 times.
absolute, I cannot even tell you. It was almost as much a disaster as the time that Buddhist monk tried to teach me how to drive in Taiwan.
I'll tell you what.
Slightly less of a disaster.
I'll tell you what. In Taiwan, they drive with the left, which is not very good.
Well, I was driving in a parking lot. It was a whole story,
Okay.
so it was fine. I didn't even make it down the hill. In my defense, it was a very, very large hill.
But if you,
So I haven't even made it on a
if you come
horse.
to the farm, we will get you on a very tranquil pony. And
Get me in a nice old...
yes, a nice old tranquil pony.
I will take that offer. I'll take it up. I've lived a good life. I can do
Ginger,
it.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Italics Magazine.
Thank you, Italics Magazine. And thank you, Polo, for the cure.
Grazie mille.